Good afternoon, Mr. Cisco. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good. My name is Alvin Roche. To my left is Mr. Anthony Marabella, and to my right is Ms. Pearl Wise. We will compose your profile this afternoon. Let me explain the process to you. I will read some information into the record. When that information is in the record, we'll conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we'll allow Warden Falgood or Warden Ambo to make comments, observations, or remarks. Then we will let the individuals that are here in your support, Ms. Catherine Nelson, your sister, Ms. Gayla LaFleur, a friend, Ms. Tanya Bell, a sister-in-law, and your attorneys. Would Mr. Hogan introduce yourself as attorney of record, and also is that a student attorney, Mr. Hogan?
No, Mr. Roche, Jane Hogan on behalf of Thomas Cisco. Also present is Marcia Witter, who was Thomas's attorney on his direct appeal. So if the board were to have any questions, Ms. Witter is here. She's extremely familiar with the legal process and the history of this case.
Okay, Ms. Witter, would you please introduce yourself?
Certainly. My name's Marcia Witter. I'm an attorney currently living in Atlanta, Georgia, but I practiced in Louisiana for many, many years. And I became Mr. Cisco's lawyer, I think, around 2000.
Thank you, Ms. Witter. If we have any questions about any of the legal proceedings, we'll ask you.
Thank you.
And we have the victim, Ms. Connie Trahan, that would like to make a statement. After we hear from all of the supporters and those in opposition, we'll give you a chance to make a statement on your behalf. You understand the process?
Yes, sir.
You are Thomas Cisco Jr. Your DOC number is 192921. You're currently 54 years old. You're a first felony offender, and your offenses are 4 counts of manslaughter. And that sentencing date was on, 3 counts of manslaughter. One of the counts, you got a 30-year consecutive, the 30-year concurrent and 10 years consecutive. So you had 3 counts of manslaughter. Sentencing date was March 26, 2010. You got a 40-year sentence, a 40-year sentence consecutive to that sentence, a 30-year sentence to run concurrently with those 2, and a 10-year sentence to run consecutive to the 40-year sentence. Total sentence is 90 years. Did I explain that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your parole date was August 1st, 2021. Your adjusted good time date, August 13th, 2074. And your full term date is August 26th, 2088. Is all this information correct?
Yes.
So you first was incarcerated in 1988, is that correct?
1989.
1989. Okay.
No, not 1989.
98.
1998.
98.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. 2088 would have been 1998. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your case has been assigned to Ms. Pearl Wise. Would you please answer Mrs. Wise's question.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good.
Good, good. It's been a long wait, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. The cutoff for the record, how long you served on this sentence?
I've served 24 years and 6 months.
2 years and 6 months. And how old are you today?
54.
In those 24 years, what programs have you taken that? Well, I realized that you were in the mental health unit for a very long time. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about that.
Well, I had mental problems. I really don't know how to explain it except for that. Just some mental problems that were just getting to me. You know, I figured out, thought I needed some help.
And you sought the help, you reached out for help.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you transitioned out of the mental health ward. When was that to the offender health reintegration program? When was that? Do you remember?
No, ma'am, I don't remember when it was.
And so you've been in the regular population for about how long, would you say?
I've been back in population for probably about a year.
1 year, okay. And are you a member of the social orientation club? What is that about?
Social orientation club. I'm trying to understand what that is.
Oh, okay. Well, that was my question to you. But okay, okay. We'll get that from staff. I think I saw that you were a member of that club. Okay. So tell us about the programs that you've had since you've been in the rec.
I've got 100 hours, anger management and substance abuse.
Okay. And speaking of substance abuse, that's one of the things, the facts of the case are egregious, and you know that.
Yes, ma'am.
They really are. And one of the things that you said was that you were a drug addict.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about that. Take us back 24 years ago, who you were then.
Well, I did lots of drugs 24 years ago. I was strung out on drugs really bad.
Where's the case
I just wasn't myself. I just depended on drugs.
Do you
My
remember
mom
what caused it? Do you remember what led you, what drove you to drugs?
My mom passed away when I was 15 years old. And I turned to drugs.
And what were you using?
Ma'am,
What kind of drugs were you using?
I was using cocaine, marijuana, ecstasy, acid, you name it, I was using it.
And was this daily use?
Yes, ma'am.
Right there. Wait. Wait a minute.
There's an open mic somewhere with the person that's speaking. Please mute your mic.
Move it.
I know we talking to somebody. That's okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I can't hear. So you were a 15-year-old using all kind of drugs. You got into a little legal trouble too as a juvenile, right? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Got into that. So take us to this current crime. What the one that you in jail for? In your own words, what did you do?
I stole a cross out of a graveyard, and I ended up doing a little bit of time for it.
No, that's not the crime you're in jail for now. That
No,
was the
ma'am.
one. I'm talking about the crime you're in jail for now. These manslaughters, what did you do?
I held the gun on him. I held the gun on him and stood there and watched while the shooter did what he did.
And you had been dating Stacy, right? Y'all in a relationship?
No, man, we wasn't in a relationship. We hadn't seen each other in many years. I went to Lake Charles, and I can't remember when it was, but I was working for a company called Amtech Lighting, and we were there for a job. And I used to live in Lake Charles back in the 80s. And that's when I met Stacy. Me and Stacy become good friends. And when I left, we lost contact with each other for a while.
Okay. What have you done to reconcile yourself to your involvement in this crime? How you make it?
How do I make it? I go to church. I have God in my life. I have him in my heart. It took many years for me to forgive myself for my part.
There was a write-up in November of 21, and you lost 15 days of good time for. What happened there?
That was probably when I was self-mutilation. I cut myself.
This was after you had got out of the you was in regular population, right? Open population when you did this?
No, I was at TU when I cut myself.
Okay, that's what okay. You was at TU then, okay. What happened? Do you remember? And not what happened physically, but what was going on with you mentally and emotionally?
My medicine wasn't working. I was very emotional. What happened really had a lot to do with it.
What happened? What you mean by what happened had a lot to do with it?
What happened committing this crime?
Okay.
Had a lot to do with it. And that was it's hard for me to explain. I couldn't handle it. I ended up cutting myself a few times.
And so since then, has your medication changed?
It's working. I got off of the medication that I was on. I'm on some different medication now. It's working fine. I have no suicidal thoughts or anything.
That's good to hear. It's really good to hear. How many sisters do you have?
2.
There was an allegation in the record of a violation between you and your sister. Where is that sister now?
She's with my other sister, Kathy Nelson.
So if you are allowed to move to Tennessee, you'll be living with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Now that is concerning for me. And I'm sure you understand why I don't want to put it out on the record, but that's concerning for me.
My sister don't live with my sister Kathy. She lives in her own home.
Oh, okay, well, that's different. Okay. I'm glad you cleared that up. But y'all, they just live in the same city.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I got you. And tell me about the intoxication write-up in November 20.
I don't remember that one. Probably when I took some pills.
Okay. You was in TU then?
Yes, ma'am. Your case is unique, at least for me, in the sense that the victim's family members
they're not opposed. I mean, they're actually rooting for you because they don't see you as the shooter. And I'm sure that should bring you some peace.
Yes, ma'am. It brings
I
me a
don't-
lot.
Because I don't see that very often. And I suppose I'm wondering, I'm just wondering, if I vote to release you, how would you support yourself?
I'd work for my brother. He's got his own company, Stout Construction, and I'll be working for him.
How would you take care of your mental health and staying clean and sober? What would be your plan for that?
Well, I'd go to NA for one.
How often would you go?
I'd go as much as I could.
Give me a number. How often would you go?
I'd go every day if I could. If there's a meeting, I'd be there.
Okay. And for your mental health, what are your plans for that?
Go see a psychiatrist when I get out. If I get out, I'll go see a psychiatrist and get help, get as much help as I can get.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Marabella? And I want to be completely fair with you, Mr. Cisco. I need an explanation. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 write-ups. You have 7 write-ups since August of 2020. You have a contraband write-up. Do you remember what the contraband write-up was in August of 2020?
No, sir, I don't remember what it was.
You also had a self-mutilation on that day and a aggravated disobedience.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what that was?
I tried to hang myself. I didn't refuse to come out of the cell, I think it was.
In October of 2021, you had a defiance and aggravated disobedience. Do you remember what that was?
No, sir.
It was October 25th, 2021.
No, I don't remember what it was.
So, but the one on in August of 2020, you attempted to hang yourself.
Yes, sir.
What was going on?
Well, that was one of the times when my medicine wasn't working. Like I said, a lot of it has to do with the crime that I'm in here on. Sometimes it's hard for me to forgive myself for what happened.
You realize one of the victims was only 14 years old?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's my understanding that you were not the shooter,
Yes, sir.
but you stood there and watched an individual execute 3 innocent human beings.
Yes, sir. I was on drugs at that point in time too.
Now, can you explain how an individual who is a principal with 3 murders that was arrested originally for first-degree murder, how did it end up being a manslaughter case?
I got off for death row in 2003, I think it was, and I went back for a new trial, and the trial never happened. I took a 90-year plea, a 90-year plea bargain.
But you originally convicted of principal to murder, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Why should we vote to release you early, Mr. Prisco?
To give me another chance, to get out there, and I want to talk to the youngsters about using drugs and where it can lead them, and maybe save some lives. I want to be a mentor.
Martin Falco, do you have any comments, remarks, or observations?
Sir? No.
You know, he has been in and out of treatment segregation related to his mental health. I can see here where as of February 7th, mental health level of care 2, it looks as though from reading this, his recent psychiatric and social work contact notes, unremarkable, seems to be compliant with his medication at this point. Just to clarify on that, that write-up, Mr. Roche, on August of 20, that self-mutilation was related to a pair of broken pair of clippers that he was cutting his wrist with. The attempt with the hanging that he refers to occurred in November of 20.
There's been continuous attempts to take his life.
That was a documented attempt, yes, sir, unfortunately. You know, he continues to work and that, like I said, as currently right now, he's in medium custody since October of 22. He's been at Eagle 3 in our reintegration dorm, and we've not had problems with him related to mental health or behavioral going out of the block and into that reintegration dormitory.
At this time, we'd like to hear from Ms. Kathy Nelson, his sister.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yes,
I'm here.
yes, you, Ms. Nelson, would you identify yourself and give your relationship and give us your statement?
My name is Kathy Nelson. Tom is my brother, and I'm here to speak on his behalf. I truly believe that he will be able to get out and live a normal life. He's gonna come here and live with me and my husband. My sister, she lives in her own home, and the incident I believe that y'all have about that, he was made to make a false statement when he was young when that happened. They picked him up at school and kept him overnight and everything, and they made him do a false confession, and he was not convicted of any of that. I believe in him wholeheartedly. I believe he will be able to come here. He's got a home to come to. He's got a job to come to, and I know he's had some mental problems, but I can understand why, to where he's been for the past 25 years. But I do know that he has changed. He is not the Tom, and I don't believe that he was Tom or Thomas. We call him Tom. At the time when all this happened, he was He was not himself. Them drugs had a hold of him.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
Would Miss Gayla LaFleur open your mic? Identify yourself and give your relationship. You have 3 minutes to make a statement.
My name is Gayla LaFleur, and I'm a friend of Thomas's. I've known Thomas for 36 years. We were teenagers when we met. Even though we went down different paths in life, we have always kept in contact over the years. Thomas has never been a violent boy or man. Thomas has always sought the approval of others. Yes, he went down a very bad path of drugs and alcohol, and he knows that's why he's where he's at today. I truly believe Thomas has learned his lesson for his choices in life. I also believe Thomas will be a very productive person in society. One of Thomas's dreams he has had since being in prison is to help young adults and teenagers understand what drugs and alcohol do to destroy lives. And he wants to use his life story to help people. And if he is released, he will do just that. Thomas also has a great support system in his life. If he is released, he has his wife, his children, his grandchildren, his sister, and other family members, and he has lots of friends, including myself. I honestly believe Thomas has learned his lesson and will not get into any more trouble if released. I pray you hear our plea for his release. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaFleur.
Yes.
Would Miss Tanya Bailey open your mic, please? Would you introduce yourself and give your relationship to the offender?
I'm Connie Trahan. My sister was Nicole Guidry, the youngest of the 3 of these victims in this case. And I agree with Ms. Wise, this is very unique. And it is due to the fact that I did not.
Ms. Trahan?
Yes,
I'm going to call on you after all the supporters have finished.
oh, I do apologize, I'm sorry.
Ms. Tanya Bailey, would you please open your mic?
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, would you please give your name and your relationship to the offender?
My name is Tina Bailey, and my relationship to Mr. Cisco is he is the biological father of my nephews, and he was with my sister for quite a few years, and she is now deceased.
Would you like to give us a statement?
Yes, sir. The reason I chose to be part of this today is when I met Thomas Cisco, to me, he's Tommy. He was young. He's a few years older than me, but I could tell him and my sister loved each other enough to where it confused our entire family. All I knew Tom had when I met him was a father that loved him unconditionally and kept Thomas happy and protected. My sister and Thomas loved each other so much that they were confused on what life really took, which was jobs and education. They ended up having 2 children. And Shannon being my sister, I loved them. I loved Tommy. I let them live in my home plenty of times with my husband and my own children. I was in the delivery room. I also had times when I went through my first divorce, and Shannon and Tommy were my main support system. I've never, sir, seen Tommy abuse anyone. I know his heart is real. I know he was lost when I met him. I know when Thomas and I split up as family, everybody was lost. Him, my sister, and so many others. I saved myself. and I've come a long way. My nephews were adopted. I stayed in contact the best I could. The day that they turned 17, they came back in my life, but my sister had already passed away due to drugs. I'm very happy to have Josh and Justin in my life. I've always let Tommy write me letters, and I've saved them. I've always wanted to see Tommy get a second chance. I believe in him as a person. I believe in everybody getting second chances. And I think if Tommy got this more than second, third, fifth chance, Your Honor, I believe that he would help everybody. He would help everybody find their PMAD situation that I have no part in. I don't know any of it, sir. I just do know that I still, 30 years later here, believe in the brother-in-law that I had. And I'd love to see him get the chance to be the dad to my nephews and to his granddaughter. And I am a support system for him if he does come home. And I
Thank
love
you,
you.
Ms. Grant.
Thank you,
Ms.
sir.
Grant.
Thank you.
Thomas,
Yes, sir.
would you like to give us a brief? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Before we get to Ms. Hogan, I would like to hear from the victim's sister, Ms. Connie Train. Ms. Train.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm Connie Tran. I'm Nicole Guidry's sister. She's the youngest victim of this case. I agree with Ms. Wise. This is very unique. If I believe that Cisco did pull the trigger, I would have a different opinion today. My mother's no longer here to be able to say anything, but I feel like Cisco has served time for his role in this crime. I don't feel that he's an ongoing threat to my family. I wouldn't. It does comfort me, unfortunately, I'm sorry, but to see that he does have remorse for this and he does feel this pain, because there are very many people affected by this. Even though, you know, last year was 25 years since this has happened, it is still fresh. But I think I'm not going to oppose for his possible release. Thank you.
Ms. Trahan,
Yes, sir.
you know how remarkable you are, how much courage you have to come and make a statement that your family is unopposed to your belief.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Briscoe, would you give me a brief statement why we should vote early, and then Ms. Hogan will close out the hearing.
Thomas, do you have anything to say?
I have something I want to read. I am sorry for what happened, and will regret the choices for what I regret the choices I made for the rest of my life. I will live with the nightmares I have for the rest of my life as well. I'm so sorry for the hurt, the pain that I've caused. I'm not the same person that came to jail 24 years ago. That man used drugs, lived the street life. The man I am today, I'm clean, drug-free, have God in my life and in my heart, and have remorse. And am remorseful. It took years for me to forgive myself. Until then, I continued to struggle. I was able to forgive myself through church and prayer. I'm asking the families for forgiveness and anyone else affected. I ask not for them to forget, but to forgive my inability to be a man and give everyone closure. Prison life has made a better person, made me a better person, has taught me respect. Being incarcerated for 24 years and 6 months has changed my life forever. If I am granted parole, I will spend my time getting my GED, working hard, and speaking to youngsters on the dangers of drugs and street life. I want to share my story of where drugs and street life got me, and hopefully be able to save some lives and change some lives. Being locked up, being removed from society, and having my family removed from my life eventually forced me to take a long look at myself. I look back and see all the ones I hurt because of my decisions I made, not just my family, but also families of others.
Elvis. Attorney Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. I would also like to commend Ms. Connie for being here and for her expression of support for Mr. Cisco. It is a tremendous act of courage to be you and to be here. So I just want to commend you as well and thank you for that. And I think that this isn't a typical case at all, as the board recognizes. And Mr. Cisco is not a typical person. The remorse that he feels for his role in this racked him with such guilt and shame that he's spent the majority of his incarceration in the mental health ward. And as you heard, his write-ups are all really centered around his mental health issues and his suicide attempts. And I was told that around the time that he had the multiple suicide attempts, he was also experiencing lithium toxicity, where he had too much lithium in his body and it was having adverse effects. And as he stated, his medication wasn't working, which led to getting multiple write-ups back to back in the last couple of years. But he is now stable on his medication. He has an excellent transition plan to Tennessee. He has a sister. He has a wife that is a huge supporter who has already figured out how to get him medication, how to get him connected with local support groups and things like that. If he were to be granted release, he has a huge support system that will help him transition successfully to Tennessee. In spite of his circumstances and in spite of the amount of time that he has spent in the TU, he was able to take classes. He completed anger management. He completed living in balance. I would like to point out that the intoxication write-up that he had wasn't for illegal drugs. I believe it was for his own medication while he was in the TU unit. So given all of that, I mean, I understand this board likes to see periods of time where there are no write-ups, but given that these write-ups are connected intrinsically with Mr. Cisco's mental health, and which is in turn connected with what his role was in this horrific crime, and the expressed support of the victim's family, we would ask for grant Mr. Cisco to Tennessee, also bearing in mind that he is technically a first offender with a low risk of recidivism and a huge support system. Thank you.
Ms. Hogan. Is the panel ready to vote?
I recommend executive session to discuss confidential matters related to this case.
I have a motion with second to go into executive session to discuss confidential matter. Roll call?
Alvin Rushing,
Yes.
Marabella,
Yes.
Parole.
Yes.
Committee on Parole is reconvening after executive session. It is 1 p.m. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Ms. Wise?
Mr. Crisco, I want to apologize to you because I read so much until I didn't even have any questions, because I read so much, but there was so much to read. So I wanted to spend a lot of time listening and trying to hear. The one you all didn't mention it, but I think it's ICOP to Tennessee. It's already been approved, I believe. We have that in the record. Is that correct, Ward?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You prepared well for this hearing. All yeah, the support, place to live, the income, the medical support, you have everything you need to be successful. What I had to decide is, am I willing to take a chance on you? Because you have what you need, or you going to take it to me? And I believe you will. I believe you don't figure it out. So my vote is to grant conditionally upon you being accepted Tennessee. There's no hiccups on that. You get transferred to Tennessee. And when you get there, undergo a mental health evaluation, get connected with somebody there in the mental health field. Within the first 7 days, undergo a mental health evaluation, get your medications and everything lined out. I want to report weekly to probation parole for the first 4 weeks, so you can understand what they expect of you. So there will be no slips in what's going on. And random drug screens. And about 8 months after you release, I want you to start doing that community service. I believe you'll be comfortable. At least 8 hours a month, give back to the community in whatever way you can.
Yes, ma'am.
Best wishes.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Marabella?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cisco, I think you had a very good interview today. You're low risk. You've got an excellent transition plan. And again, I want to echo what Mr. Roche said about strong courage, passion that it took to be here today to express the views of yourself and your family is overwhelming. My vote likewise would be the same as this Ms. Wise to grant to the ICOTS to Tennessee with all of the conditions that she's outlined. So good luck to us.
Mr. Cisco?
Yes, sir.
As your attorney, Mrs. Jane Hogan can tell you, I am a victims person and a disciplinary person. Those two things are very important to me. First of all, the victim's family has made a statement that they are unopposed and actually support your release.
Yes, sir.
And I've gone through the disciplinary write-ups, and you've had about 4 or 5 or 6 in the last 2 years. And I can connect all those write-ups to the mental health issues that you had. And you were on the wrong medication, and you got an element that too much of an element in your system that may have caused some of this erratic behavior. So I'm going to dismiss your disciplinary issues, and the victim part of it has been taken care of by Mrs. Trahan. So I'm going to agree with my colleagues, and I'm going to vote for your early release. You have received 3 votes. Grant your early release under the following conditions. You have a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. You ought to have a mental health evaluation, and get all your medication, everything straight in the first 7 days of arriving in Tennessee. Go to report to your parole officer weekly for the first 4 weeks, and you ought to do 8 hours of community service monthly. 8. How many hours?
8 hours.
8 hours, 8 months.
Again, 8.
Okay, 8 months after release. You're very fortunate today, Mr. Briscoe. I like to tell individuals in your situation, you have a golden ticket. You had a 90-year sentence staring in the face, and you got your early release. Take advantage of it. Do everything you're supposed to do. Follow all the rules and regulations. That includes the regulations of your sister's home.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna be your sister, right?
Yes, sir.
Good luck and have a good life.
Thank you.